Welcome in, everyone. Matt McClusky, Matt McSports Fix, the web version, powered by newvisions.com. Each and every week, we give you all that there is in North Country sports, and this week, we have a big show. We'll talk Syracuse lacrosse, because someone has to, and the Watertown Privateers, some big developments in Watertown in regard to professional hockey in the North Country. That all went down this week. We'll have more on it later today, so do stick around, or at least this episode, whenever you check it. We'll have more on that later on. But first, Frontier League Sports, it gets the lead each and every time while we can talk about it as we get closer to sectional play. And this week, we'll lead off with lacrosse. Carthage, boys Comets, win Frontier League Championship number 20 this week, officially outright. Comets beat IHC earlier in the week, 7-4, and that, of course, wrapped up the league title and avenged Carthage's only loss of the season, as Carthage lost to IHC by 9 goals, actually, in Watertown last month. So number 20 for Carthage, congratulations to Coach Benaquatro and the team. And here's a little interesting kind of thought process when it comes to the Comets. I've talked to a lot of beat writers and some people that cover North Country athletics, or at least Central New York and North Country athletics. And further downstate, Syracuse and all around, Carthage is really not on the radar right now. Because the Comets lost to IHC and because it wasn't close, a lot of people basically wrote the Comets completely off. Now, since that game last month, Carthage has won and won and won and won, just like it always does. So it's interesting that while we see Carthage win another title, and it seems like, boy, this team's still pretty good, close games, but still winning games, you would think there'd be a lot of buzz surrounding a team that consistently wins championships. But further downstate, it's just not there. So going forward, I do think, and we have playoffs and then we'll hit sectionals, I think Carthage is a team to really look out for because it's going to be a little bit of a dark horse this season. Very rare. Carthage, even in down years, supposed down years, it still gets a lot of buzz, a lot of hype. This season, I don't think you would classify it as a down year, but because of that loss, there's just not the usual buzz. Next month, or next week for that matter, when we hit sectional play, I think Carthage will surprise some people that have forgotten how good this program really is and how good Kurt Benaquatro is as a coach. Keep an eye. Also want to throw out a congratulations to General Brown winning the B division in boys lacrosse, beating IHC earlier in the week. That wrapped it up for the Lions. Congrats to them. Also in girls lacrosse, South Jefferson wins its first ever Frontier League crown, winning this season, beating Watertown and Carthage and General Brown. Fantastic season for Coach Jen Williams and players like Morgan Alexander. Speaking of teams going far, South Jeff is definitely one of those teams that will go far in sectional play. But of note, this week, Watertown went on the road. Now, in Frontier League standings, South Jeff wins it, but basically by percentage points. South Jeff actually split with Watertown this season, but South Jeff ended up getting the crown. Watertown, percentage points behind in that division, but when you look at big picture, Cyclones go on the road, beat Queensberry. Spartans, by the way, the Queensberry Spartans were undefeated. It's a perennial power, and Watertown went on the road, got a 1-goal victory to really, I think, cement its legacy here this season as one of the teams to look out for. South Jeff rightfully won the league title. Queensberry, though, is a team that could beat anybody, and Watertown went on the road and took one. So congratulations to the Cyclones. Although not winning the Frontier League crown, very, very nice, dramatic, and resounding win on the road. Now, earlier this week, IHC beat RFA at home. We like to give you video of some of the better games of note. This one went to overtime, and you can see some of the highlights here. Molly Guyette scores the game winner for the Cavaliers, winning that game 16-15. Danielle Pound had 3 goals. One of the better games you'll see of the season, and you can see the weather just beautiful. Little muggy. I don't want to complain too much because of all the snow, ice, wind, rain that we've had. It seemed like in the North Country, we went from winter to summer with no spring, so it was a little muggy. But it was a great game. We were able to get out and get some of the highlights. And again, Guyette with the game winner. IHC wins in exciting, dramatic fashion. So for all the champs to crown and to talk about, do want to mention the Cavaliers getting that nice win. Now here on Matt McSports Fix, we will take a commercial break, and we'll come back and we'll talk Syracuse lacrosse. Big developments in lacrosse land, at least in men's lacrosse in college, because the Orange, a 2 seed, lose at home to Bryant. A lot of people don't know what Bryant is. Well, It's a program that beat Syracuse, and we'll talk about that after this quick commercial break on Matt McSports Fix, powered by newvisions.com. I would like to talk more about Syracuse lacrosse here on Matt Mick Sports Fix, but this is probably going to be the end of that discussion, at least for this season, as the Orange lost last week at the Dome to Bryant in the first round of the NCAA tournament. 10-9 was the final, and although last week I said SU may lose this game, I didn't really think it would happen. Unfortunately, Bryant is a team that was playing a little loose. I think some of the offense, defense, I think there was just a little different feel with Bryant compared to Syracuse. Especially in the second half of that game, I thought Syracuse looked very tense, and the players didn't really seem to have that flow and that feel of a power, whereas Bryant felt like it had nothing to lose, and it played as such, winning the game again 10-9. Interesting to point out, though, Chris Daddio, the face-off quote-unquote specialist for the Orange, actually had a decent game. Bryant is one of the best face-off teams in the country. Although it's not a well-renowned school, it's not a team that people talk about a lot. Face-off and goal, Bryant's really, really good. So this wasn't exactly an unbelievable upset. It's one of the biggest upsets in NCAA tournament history. But when you actually look at Bryant and what it's been able to do this season, it wasn't totally crazy. And face-off, which was an issue for SU early in the season, it really wasn't the reason Syracuse lost this game. Again, I think it was because SU played maybe a little tight, especially late, and because Bryant just simply had the better X's and O's, and in the end, upsets can happen. So that ends the season for Syracuse. And when you look at it, again, SU was a 2 seed, Bryant unseeded coming into this game. But bigger picture, what happens now for Syracuse? It was a team that struggled early, then won 7 of 8, got that 2 seed, was a favorite to get to the Final Four. Now, just like a couple years ago in the loss to Army, people are left to wonder, is SU lacrosse maybe going a little downhill compared to where it used to be? It's funny to have that discussion because Syracuse was in the national championship game last season, but around here in Syracuse, in Watertown, in northern New York, everyone expects Memorial Day weekend to have some type of involvement with SU. That's not a gimme, that's not a guarantee anymore, and that means John Desko's seat, maybe not in reality, but in some fans' minds, getting a little warm. Crazy to think that when you talk Desko having 5 national championships as a coach, being in it just last season, but first-round flameouts, face-off issues for the last decade. There are some negatives with Desko. Personally, I think he's fine. He should absolutely be the coach next season and from there on out. But there is a growing sentiment amongst fans that think Desko's time has come. In fact, some people think Desko is a recruiter and not a coach. Crazy to me. I don't necessarily subscribe to that theory, but people out there are getting fed up. So when you think SU lacrosse, what comes to mind now? It is a little interesting when you think of that, because it used to be the Gates, the Powells, the championships, Simmons Jr. Now, I think you still think of that championship in 09. I still think you remember and you think of Memorial Day and playing in the Final Four or in the championship game. But I also think of flameouts to Army, flameouts to Bryant, a couple of down years in 07, 06, 07 era. So issues. There are definitely issues, but I do think the growth of the game, I think teams like Bryant, teams like the unseeded teams that actually won games, Albany, just down the road, the Thompson brothers. There's a lot more talent encompassing all of lacrosse, and Syracuse might be struggling a little bit to adapt to the new level of lacrosse. It used to be about like 5 teams had a chance at the title every year. Now, especially with the tournament expanding and because of scholarships and players and programs coming around, I think that field is a little bit wider, and that means Syracuse has to adapt. But look at Johns Hopkins, look at Virginia, look at Princeton. Those are schools that have been perennially in the Final Four, in the top 10. They've struggled also. So I don't think Desko is necessarily on the hot seat. I think some change may be needed just in recruiting, or maybe things are stagnant here or there in the program. But I think overall, SU fans should still be pretty excited about a team that got a 2 seed, that won 7 out of 8, and that was in the championship game just a year ago. I mean, it's hard to believe we're talking about this. And last season, SU was actually leading in that game against Duke before the Blue Devils kind of put it on late to win that championship. But SU lacrosse it's a pivotal time right now, in terms of what's going to happen and where the fan base lies. There's a split. I don't think it's 50-50, but there is a split, and we'll have to see going forward what that means. Desko will be back next year unless he steps down on his own, and I don't think that'll happen. He'll be back, but from here on out, next season there may be a little more pressure on him than you would expect for a coach that's won so many championships. But you lose to Bryant, and people get upset. Just ask Jim Boeheim. People get upset. They kind of forget the past when the present is a bad loss. Now, we want to flip gears a little bit, talking lacrosse, because it's that time of the year. It's not time of the year for hockey, but it kind of is. I'll explain what that means coming up here on Matt McSports Fix, powered by NewVisions.com. And we are back. Thank you so much for logging on wherever you are around the world to newvisions.com or WNER1410.com. Now, if you want your business to help us put a spotlight on communities, players, coaches, all you have to do is email us. You see it right on your screen now, newvisions@gmail.com, GNUvisions@gmail.com. You can help us, again, put on this show each and every week. And with your help, we'll be able to get out to more games, do more interviews, and the such. So please do hit us up with that. Also, you can hit my email if you have ideas for players, coaches, or teams that we should cover. That's at mattmicksportsfix@yahoo.com. I forgot my email. mattmicksportsfix@yahoo.com. It's on the graphic. You can see it. Email me. I'm lonely. I want your correspondence. Now, I do have something to talk about in terms of hockey. It's obviously not the season for it, as we finally hit what seems to be summer, as I said, here in the North Country. Skipped right through spring. We're into 80 degrees here in the North Country, but it will be hockey season soon enough, and the Watertown Privateers may or may not be back at the fairgrounds in Watertown, but some type of professional hockey will likely be there. Here's the backstory. If you don't know, we have the Federal Hockey League that consists of basically 4 teams right now. Watertown had a franchise. It originally started in Alexandria Bay, came down to Watertown 2 seasons ago. There has been friction, there have been issues, all sorts. I can't even tell you we don't have time for it today, the issues that have taken place at the fairgrounds. But the FHL right now says there will not be a team in Watertown currently. There are, however, 6 investors, local people, some of the people I actually know, that are willing to put together some money to buy an FHL franchise. That means it could be the Privateers. That's not very likely. It's probably going to be another team involved with the FHL. Earlier this week, those 6 investors, suitors, became known. FHL has said that more or less negotiations are ongoing, nothing imminent, nothing's going to happen soon. But that deadline to get this done is approaching. I think it's probably sometime in June or July. So keep an eye on that. From the reports this week on Channel 7 News, WWNYTV.com, or WatertownDailyTimes.com, they all had it covered that there is something going on, and there is a push to keep hockey in the North Country. We just don't necessarily have all of the details yet. My bet, and that's what you tune in for, I'm assuming is my opinion, may or maybe not, but I'll give it to you anyway. I think the Privateers, I think that's gone. I do think the FHL will be here. I do think these 6 investors, suitors, I think they have the goods to get it done and to stay in the FHL. And that's great because at the fairgrounds, you can write it off and say, well, it's low-level minor league hockey. And truthfully, it is professional hockey. It is low level, but it is professional. You can think that it's just Watertown and who cares about it, and it's had a bad reputation. But have you gone? Because I think if you go, and if you go with the intent of having a good time, you will have a good time. The hockey's okay, the atmosphere is fun, there's good food, good drinks. It's actually a lot of fun. So I personally hope that something gets done here to keep a team, because Watertown and the North Country needs this type of activity. It's especially in the winter. Think about the winter we just had. You just sit there and it's just snowing and it's cold and you don't really want to do anything and there's not much to do. this provides you something. This gives you something to kind of rally around and to distract you with and to have a good time with friends or family down at the fairgrounds. I do have reservations about the FHL. I've had dealings with it myself, and personally, the reputation you may or may not have heard of is probably accurate. And I do worry that these 6 investors may not have the full backstory on everything that works in the FHL, but assuming they do, and again, I know a couple of them, so I'm assuming they've done their work because they do in their professional lives as it is. They know what they're getting into, and I think more or less something will get done. I think it's advantageous for everybody to keep it. I hope it's here. It's not going to be the privateers likely. It'll be something different. But as long as it's hockey at the fairgrounds, I think we all should be pretty happy with it. So keep an eye on the developments. About a week ago, and certainly a month ago, I never thought this would happen. I thought the privateers were gone. I thought the FHL would be gone. But these 6 investors or suitors or whatever you want to call them seem like they are interested enough and dedicated enough to keep hockey in Watertown. We lost baseball in the past. We don't have many other options when it comes to sporting events outside of JCC and the Frontier League. So let's hope that it's here, and let's hope that the work is done to make sure that everything is on the up and up, because I worry in the past, I don't know if it was on the up and up. That's just between me and you. All right, let's take a quick commercial break. We'll come back and put a bow on this week's edition and tell you about next week. It is Matt McSports Fix, the web version, and we will be right back. And we're closing up shop. It's time to get on out of here. But before we do, again, I want you to help us. 2 ways you can do that. One is that last commercial break we had. Your business's name could be highlighted there. Just simply email us at newvisions@gmail.com. It's GNUvisions@gmail.com. I had to cheat and look at the screen, but that's what it is. And you can tell us how you want to get involved so you can help us keep this show going. And honestly, the more we get from feedback, the more we get in terms of sponsorship, I'll be honest, we need it. This thing will be expanded even further. We have this great studio, we have these great cameras, you put up with me a little bit, but we'll get out and get more interviews, more game footage. We'll even have people come into the studio and sit down with us at the other set that we opened with. That's what we all want to do. Need a little help getting there. So I feel like this is a telethon. It's not, but we do need a little help. Also, I want your opinion on not just me and how good looking I am. I want you to tell me a little bit about a player, a team, a coach that you want highlighted here on the show, because we will get to them. We'll sit down with them and interview. We'll get some footage. We'll do whatever you want. Just let us know. That's my email. That's my email, personal email, mattmicksportsfix@yahoo.com. mattmicksportsfix@yahoo.com. I want to know what you're thinking, so let us know via email. Now, catch my radio show, Matt Mick Sports Fix, the radio version, on Friday mornings on Fox Sports Radio 1410. It's 7 to 9 a.m. on your AM dial 1410. We basically take everything from here and put it over to the radio station for 2 hours. So tune in for that each and every week. And we'll be back next week with another edition here of the Sports Fix. For everyone behind the scenes, it's New Visions powering us. I'm Matt McClusky. Thank you for logging on and tuning in, and we will see you again next week with another Matt Mick Sports Fix right here on newvisions.com.